What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about my top 5 baits for post-spawn bass fishing. Now, I just did a where do bass go after the spawn video, but today I want to talk about baits more in depth, specific colors, specific techniques. I really feel like that is key. We all know that after the spawn, these fish, they split up, right? Some fish stay shallow, some fish go deep. There's a snake swimming right here. Look at that guy. 100% that is a rattlesnake. Well, you never know what's gonna happen when you start shooting videos. I swear, you hit that, you pull the camera out, you hit record. Just have to make sure that he doesn't end up in the Yamaha back there and hitch a ride back to the launch ramp. But I just did that where do fish go after the spawn, but today I want to talk about specific baits because that's really important. Like I said, I got thinking about snakes here. Like I said, these fish go shallow, the snakes go shallow, some fish go deep, but it really expands or opens your tackle box, the different baits that you can throw, flip and pitch and punch in, shallow vegetation, deep cranking. I'll do a video later about actual summertime fishing because these fish, now that we're post-spawn, are starting to think about, or they're heading to their summer haunts, where they're gonna spend the summertime. A lot of these fish, the deep fish, it's all about rock, right? Offshore rock, ledges, humps, saddles, fishing those nearest breaks to the main river channels. And then the shallow fish, you're looking for that real thick, lively grass, flooded vegetation. Okay, these fish are they're gonna pull up into that stuff and use it. We got lightning now too. The odds are stacked against me in this video. Hopefully I don't get bit by a snake or struck by lightning. Other than that, we'll be good. But let's jump into these baits. Now, first and foremost, number one thing I wanna talk about after the spawn is the shad spawn. I talked about it briefly in that video the other day, but it is very important because some of the best fishing of the entire day can happen in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Low light conditions early on if your fishery has shad in it. So I wanna talk about those baits specifically, okay? And then we'll kind of cover the other baits for post-spawn bass fishing, whether it's shallow or deep. But I have a whole separate set, top 5 baits for that shad spawn if you have shad in your fishery. Now, a lot of guys, we got some rain coming too. A lot of guys this time of the year, they will fish those low light conditions, but they're not moving quick enough. They're not moving around. We're looking for shallow, hard bottom. These shad like to spawn on rock, riprap walls, shallow clay points, that sort of stuff. So my number one bait is a spinnerbait. This SV3 by Megabass is an awesome, I'm gonna call it a finesse spinnerbait. It is an awesome shad spawn spinnerbait. Has some built-in longer strands, so you don't have to run a trailer. What's really important with these fish, they're up super shallow. They can be disturbed very easily. The bass feeding on them, I mean, you'll see the bombs dropping, but you don't wanna throw a bait up there and get hung up. So that's why my number one bait is a spinnerbait. Fairly weedless. I'm going with willow blades. I'm trying to mimic that shad as close to possible, right? Having that skirt material gives that bait some secondary action. But like I said in this video, I wanna talk more about the actual baits themselves and where these fish go, because that post-spawn time can be really tricky. But that number one bait for the shad spawn is going to be a spinnerbait. Number 2 is going to be a topwater. And I had a hard time limiting it to one topwater just because there's different situations. You might have a little bit of chop on the water, or it might be slick calm. You might have a little bit of stained water where you need some sound. You want something a little bit more subtle. So I have 4 specific top waters for you. Number 1, if it is slick calm, low light, these fish are spawning, the shad are spawning, these fish are feeding on those, this guy right there, that is the Megabass Dog X. That is GP Sexy Shad. It's kind of a ghost chromy sexy shad. It is an awesome, awesome color. But more importantly, this bait. Why this bait? It is a really finessey topwater. It's fairly quiet, but this bait really shines in quiet, low light, low ripple, slick, calm conditions. That is a must, okay? Number 2, you guys probably would have guessed this if you follow our channel and you guys know how much I love throwing top water. A Shower Blows 105 in the chrome color. Again, we're downsizing a little bit. These fish, they're targeting that shad in that 2.5 to 3.5, 4-inch size. So I really like that chrome color in that Shower Blows. I've literally eaten the paint away from this bait. I cut this bait off. I got a broken hook on there. This thing has just been massacred. This thing works extremely well, extremely well. Like I forgot I put the mic on, so let me show. Here's that Giant Dog X. Here's that Shower Blows. And then last but not least, for the walking baits, if you're a guy that wants to throw a normal sized or an average sized topwater, this guy right here, this is a new topwater from Rapala. It's called the Jowler, and it has a kind of like a jitterbug face to it. So it spits really easy and you don't cover a lot of water. Again, these fish are in isolated areas, so you don't want to cover a lot. You don't want to throw a whopper plopper or a buzz bait or something like that. You want to keep that bait there, and having that cupped face really helps with resistance going forward, but it also adds splash and spit. Again, this bait has a different sound, like kind of like a single knocker, and this specific color is called Glitter Bone. I really, really like it. It's got a bone belly and a bone top, and then a chrome side. Comes pre-rigged with VMC redline hooks, so you don't have to update or upgrade your hooks. But if you're looking for a different sounding, different style topwater that's average size, give that guy a look. Last but not least, a popper. Whether it's the Pop Max in that Matte Shad, that thing has caught so many good fish for me, or the World Pop by Shimano. That is another great popper, but again, a real natural color. The Pop Max is a little bit larger size, has the holes in the cheeks of the face, so it adds a little bit of spitting and bubble trail. Again, we're talking about that Shad Spawn, 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. If you get overcast, it might last an hour or a little bit longer, but these fish are aggressive and they're killing shad. They are extremely dumb and really, really easy to catch. If you pull up to a spot, you might see the blowups, you might see the ripples. If you don't see that, you make a couple casts, move on to the next spot, because Matt's had several times throughout the years where we've caught them on a certain spot and we go there the next day and they're not there, the shad have moved. So, but we know what they're looking for. We know what types of bottom they're looking for, shoreline they're looking for, so we just keep going, running and gunning until we find those active feeding fish. And again, you're chasing the light, right? As soon as that sun comes up, it kind of shuts down. Those fish kind of go in a lull and they spread out, and it's back to normal post-spawn fishing. But that guy right there is awesome. And then 2 other baits for you real quick, and then we'll go into the actual post-spawn baits themselves. That guy right there, that TN70 lipless, great sound. It resembles a shad really well. Throwing it out there, doing that hopping technique. You can get away with the burning technique too. A lot of times, if they are actively feeding, you can catch them aggressively just burning that thing. And then specifically that Evo Elite in electric shad chatterbait paired up with an electric shad spunk shad. Again, shad, shad, shad. It's all about that shad spawn. Those are very specific baits that you need to be throwing early morning, late evening, if you have shad in your fishery. Okay, now more traditional post-spawn fishing. We're taking that shad spawn deal and we're setting it aside. You know, maybe we've missed it, or maybe we don't have shad, or maybe we do have shad, but we're fishing throughout the day. You know, this time period can be kind of finicky. It can leave a lot of anglers confused because these fish spread out, right? They spread out, they move shallow to spawn. Some stay in the thick stuff, some leave. They're in that transition. It can be kind of a funky period. So give it a week or so, and then it should really start kicking off, and you have that really, really good post-spawn bite where those fish are aggressive, they're actively feeding, they're through that spawn, it's kind of beat up their body, they're skinny, they're hungry, and it can be a lot of fun fishing. But you gotta ask yourself, how do you wanna catch them? Basically, everything in the tackle box is unlocked. Shallow fishing or deep fishing, and then vegetation. Do you have grass or do you not have grass? So that's really how I broke it down in the video the other day about where these fish go. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below in the video description. But this can be a really kind of a finicky time as these fish transition. All right, as far as baits, you basically have to ask yourself, are you fishing shallow? Are you fishing deep? Are you fishing around grass? Are you not? Those two questions. Since we already talked about the shad spawn stuff, and that's usually shallow, let's stick with the shallow bite, and then we'll go deep, okay? Number one, a frog. Specifically, that Spro bronzeye frog. Now, through the years, we've had a lot of really good frogs, a lot of favorite frogs through the years, different frogs that walk in sparse grass, different frogs that work better on mats. But if I only have to give you one, quality, hook, strength, easeability for walking, it's gonna be that guy right there. And as far as the color, I'm going with this guy, black belly, white back. It is, again, I'm trying to simplify this for you guys. We've talked about the different colors of frogs, whites and blacks and chartreuses and bluegills and that sort of stuff. But if I had to choose one, it would be that guy right there. I'm gonna be able to cover this entire bank. You see all that flooded vegetation? That's about 18 inches deep. These fish are back in that stuff. These reeds, cattails, and stuff like that, these fish are back in that stuff. So I can fish this frog on 65-pound braid. I can literally throw it right into that stuff, bring it out, and then start walking it. All right, we're gonna wrap this video up here shortly, but a frog is my number one shallow bait. Number two is going to be a weedless swim bait with some flash. Again, we know these shad are around, we know these bluegill are up spawning, we know these fish are up eating, they're hunting. Adding some flash, adding some vibration is key. So an owner flashy swimmer, 5/0 1/4 ounce silver willow blade with an electric shad swammer. That's a 4.75 swammer. You guys can take this anywhere in the country with semi-warm water and it will catch bass, I promise you. The reason I say semi-warm, this has a real good aggressive kick, has some body roll. If you guys haven't already seen that finesse swim bait video I did, I talked about the different tail actions and kicks of your favorite finesse swim baits. So warmer water, that swammer all day paired up with that flashy swimmer. Again, we're talking weeds, we're talking vegetation, we're talking shallow fish. Last but not least, for those, that was lightning. I'm gonna go with a whiplash shad, specifically electric shad color. Over a fluke, I'm going with that X-Zone whiplash shad. It's super soft and has amazing gliding action. You can get real tight with it if you want, but when you whip it, hence the name, real wide, and then it does that Cinco shimmy. But that guy rigged on a Superline hook. I like the superline hook, 2 reasons. You're fishing around vegetation, so if you get a big fish, you're throwing it on bigger line, you can get that fish out, and then having that little bit heavier wire hook adds some stability to the bait and helps it glide and kind of cruise down, adds weight for castability. But again, when you hook that big fish, you're not gonna lose it. So that's why I choose that guy over a traditional super fluke. Again, trying to simplify this stuff, top 5 baits, really trying to limit this stuff for you guys. Now, let's talk about some of the deep fish. Number 1, going to be a crankbait. Now I have 3 or 4 favorites this time of the year, but if I had to choose one, I would go with that Rapala DT16, not the 14, not the 10, not the 20. That 16 is a bait you can fish in that 10 to 12 foot range, and that 14, 15, 16 foot range, depending on where these fish are staging once they leave the pockets, once they head out to those main lake breaks, river channels, ledges, that sort of stuff, so you can get down deep. When we talk about summer, we'll go even deeper, the DT20, the 10XD, the 8XD. We will talk about different colors, some chartreuses and stuff. For right now, I'm going with, that's called green gizzard shad. That is a phenomenal bait fish color. Catch them if they're around bluegill, catch them if they're around shad, but that DT16 specifically, because of the depth range, the action, and its float. So with forward-facing sonar, you can actually see a lot of these baits they'll be high float and they'll float back up. This is almost, it's not a suspender, but it's a slow float. So once it gets down to that 16-foot range, it stays down there even when you pause it. Okay, but that guy is killer. One more bait for you, and then we'll talk about a couple finesse baits. But if I had to choose one, whether it's a highland reservoir, a lowland reservoir, clearer water, I'm going with this guy right here. That is our Tactical Mini Underspin paired up with a Largo shad. It is an awesome bait fish profile. Now specifically, that head is called Pro Blue. If you look at this thing, you'll notice it's not a white based head like a lot of swim bait heads. This thing does not glow in the water. We've talked about that in previous videos. It's got a silver base with some blue to it, and it looks extremely well. It works extremely well, looks extremely awesome in clear water. So you reservoir fishermen fishing out deep, if you're fishing off those main lake points out there on those rock piles, pairing those two up, having that exposed hook. Again, we're not talking about shallow or around vegetation. Having that exposed hook helps with hook penetration. A lot of times those fish will hook themselves when they come up and eat that bait, and they turn this hook right there in the roof of their mouth. That's a 2/0 hook, a little bit heavier wire. You're not gonna bend it out. Again, with our underspin, we designed that longer drop arm so you have free spinning from the blade, and that thing works awesome. 2 finesse baits for you, and then we'll wrap it up because I don't feel like getting hit by lightning. Number 1, this was a tough one. I've talked about the Nico rig, I've talked about the weightless wacky rig, I've talked about, there's the floating worms, there's all sorts of stuff, but if I had to choose one finesse technique that I could fish this time of the year, it's going to be a shaky head. It is weedless, 1/4 ounce head. That is the Yamamoto Sensei worm. It's a 6.5 inch worm in June bug. This time of the year, whether you're getting those late spring storms, or you're getting snow melt and lakes rising out on the West Coast, or you're just getting rainstorms, a lot of times there's dingy water this time of the year, especially when it's rising. You got flooded vegetation, you got debris in the water, you just have stuff in the water. That June bug works extremely well. It's ultra contrasty in that dingier water. You guys know in the springtime, clearer water, I like that, the morning dawns, the pink worms. Now through summer, it's all about that June bug. Again, super soft worm, a lot of great colors from Yamamoto, but it's weedless. So I can throw this thing around this grass line. I can throw this thing out in 15, 20, 30 feet of water and catch fish as well. Now, last but not least, the 5th technique I know there's a lot of baits here, but I did 5 techniques. We did a crankbait, a fluke, a spinnerbait, a topwater, and now this guy. This is the wobblehead. You guys know how much Matt and I love it, specifically again in June bug color. That is the adrenaline craw. That's a 4.25. Again, we'll link all this stuff down below in the video description. But it is weedless. You can flip and pitch this thing around the vegetation, but more importantly, out deep, you can throw this where you'd be throwing this guy, but it's a weedless presentation. It's down there rummaging, just deflecting off of those boulders, off the rock, off the clay, having the little paddle tails in the back. That adrenaline craw has a ton of action, is a really cool alternative to that crankbait. But you have the added bonus of being weedless. So you can fish it around laydowns, you can fish it around flooded timber, you could fish it around deep grass lines, that sort of stuff. But that guy right there is my number 5 technique. So guys, there it is. There's my top 5 baits for the post spawn. Top 5 techniques for the post spawn with a little bit of a twist. We added the top 5 baits for the shad spawn during that post spawn transition. But whether you're fishing shallow or deep, grass or non-grass, there's techniques in here that I have a ton of confidence in that you guys will catch fish in or with, I promise you. Now, like I said, it can be a finicky transition. Stay with those fish. They're gonna be moving. And you guys, once you find them, these baits will put them in the boat. I'll link all this stuff down below in the video description. Try and wrap this one up before we get soaked or struck. But as always, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you like this video or learned something from it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.